What happens when an illness goes unnoticed by many? Not because it's rare, but because it hides so well. What if something quietly affecting millions doesn't draw curiosity from many, doesn't spark urgency, yet shapes lives all over the world? Hepatitis, a word many have heard, but few truly understand. What is it really? A virus, a family of diseases, a global health issue, a personal struggle? On this episode, we're not here to just deliver answers, we're here to ask better questions. How does hepatitis spread? Why do so many people live with it without knowing? What roles do stigma, access, and awareness play in this story? And beyond the biology, what does hepatitis reveal about the world we live in, about healthcare systems, about silence, about who gets seen and who doesn't? Today on Untangle, we slow down, zoom in, and try to make sense of this disease. I am Amadine Obewe. Let's untangle hepatitis. Welcome back. We've been joined now in the studio by an expert. He is a medical doctor, a public health expert, Dr. David Uzochukwu. He will break down the issue of hepatitis. Welcome to the program, Dr. David.
Thank you,
It's
Amadi.
good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's start from the basics as always, because we want to carry everyone along. Personally, during my research, while trying to see how hepatitis is explained, people tend to delve into some of the more deep aspects before breaking it down. So let's start from the basics. What is it? How does it present?
Hepatitis, from the name, it's an inflammation of the liver. That's what hepatitis simply means, inflammation of the liver. And there are a lot of causes, to this inflammation. We have, which is most common, the viral causes. That means it's caused by an infection. Infection can either be caused by viral or bacterial, fungi, whatever it is, right? But in this case, viral hepatitis. We also have hepatitis that is not caused by infection. Let's say autoimmune hepatitis. That means your body is fighting the liver, seeing the liver as a foreign organ or something, and starts attacking the liver. And when it attacks the liver becomes inflamed.
So your body just does that?
Yes, it's called autoimmune hepatitis. There's hepatitis caused by alcohol consumption, excessive alcohol consumption or abuse. That one is called alcoholic hepatitis. And there's hepatitis caused by drugs, medication. If you abuse medication, overdose on them, drug-induced hepatitis. But today, we're going to focus on the most common cause of hepatitis, which are the viral causes. And in that world, we have virus A, virus B, virus C, D, and E. So that's why you have hepatitis A, hepatitis B, C, D, E, right? So those are the causes.
All right, fair enough. Maybe we can now go into the different ones, A, B, C, and D. And first of all, I'd like to reiterate to our viewers out there, alcohol, drugs, sometimes those are things that are within people's control immediately that they can handle.
Yes.
So going to A, B, C, and D, how do they happen? And is there anyone that's more deadly that we should be more worried about? We also hear that you might not even show symptoms. So if you can break down some of those for us.
Okay, yes. Let's start with hepatitis A and hepatitis E. A and E. Those are self-limiting viruses. What I mean, when one is infected, the course of the infection is short. Yes, the person is going to be symptomatic. The person is going to present with symptoms like maybe fatigue, yellowness of the eyes, flu-like symptoms, but it's self-limiting. The body will be able to tackle the infection and the person gets cured. For A and E, they can be contracted through fecal-oral routes. Fecal-oral routes means, talking about contaminated water, food, you know, those are the ways you can contract hepatitis A and E. But for hepatitis B and C, which are the most common, which are the ones that we dread the most, those ones are gotten through various routes. And just like HIV, hepatitis B and C can be spread through the same means. Sexual contact, from mother to child, from body fluids, from use of unsterilized equipment or tools, people who abuse drugs, who do IV. So many ways you can get hepatitis, right? Why are these two very important? Out of the 5 I mentioned, A, B, C, D, E, this B and C can lead to liver cancer. B and C can lead to liver cancer.
That is after the inflammation of the liver.
Yes, it progresses. It keeps progressing, progressing. The end goal is to just damage that liver, let the liver die of liver cancer. That's the goal of B and C. That is why we pay attention. We put so much light. We do so much awareness on those particular two, because A and E are self-limiting. If you get it within a few months, you should be able to clear it, right? Even if you know some home remedies, you can still do. You clear it. But if you go to the clinic, of course, the doctor will help, give you some supportive care. It goes off. But again, D. You've noticed we've not mentioned D.
Yeah.
I usually call D the wife of B, because D you only be exposed to D if you have B. So if you don't have B, you can't have D. And if you are protected against B, automatically you are protected against D. You see that?
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I think you've broken it down quite well. I think when you mentioned A and E, and how it can easily be taken care of, is there officially a treatment for all of these, or are those the only two? And is it that is being treated, with something very specific, or you're just treating symptoms and allowing the body to do its work?
Yes, exactly. So most of the time, we just treat or manage the symptoms.
That's for A and E.
Okay. For A and E, we have different approach for D, because they are all different organisms. They are all different viruses. A is different from B. B is different from C. C, you cannot have A and it transforms to B. I've gotten that questions a lot. No, if you have B, it's B. If you have B, you can have B, C, D.
At the same time?
Yes, you can have A and D. You can have A and B. You can have A and E. It's like that. So, but yes, hepatitis B can be managed and hepatitis C can be cured. Hepatitis B can be managed. Hepatitis C can be cured. In fact, most people who get exposed to hepatitis B, let's start with B. Most people who get exposed to hepatitis B should be able to clear the virus within the first 6 months. In fact, we stand a 95% chance of clearing the virus within the first 6 months. So what happens is, even when the patient presents to the clinic, we try to see if the person is within the first 6 months. Most times, we just want to give supportive care, and see if your body will be able to eliminate the virus within the 6 months. But when the body fails to clear it within the first 6 months, that's when the condition moves from acute to chronic. The person now has chronic hepatitis B. Chronic hepatitis B meaning you will not be able to clear it from your body again. You are now carrying it likely for life. You see that? Because you will see some testimonies where people tell you that, oh, I cured my hepatitis B. But you say, but you said hepatitis B is not curable. No, you should be able to clear it within the first 6 months. You stand a 95% chance. But for C, it is different. We stand only a 5 to 10, maybe 15% chance of clearing the virus for C within the first 6 months. You You see the catch?
Yeah.
B, you have 95% chance. C, you have just a 10 or 5 to 10, 15% chance of clearing it. So most people who get exposed to C most likely will progress to the chronic phase.
I see.
Yes.
It's interesting. I think I remember one time, maybe you can help us confirm or debunk this. Someone, while trying to enlighten people about hepatitis, said it's even worse than HIV. You know, it can spread just by touching. You don't even have to. So I don't know if you can help us clarify those claims. And if I can combine it with another question, does early detection help in any of this? When you say you have a 95% chance of clearing it, what if you're not aware till the 6th month or thereabouts? And these symptoms, when do they appear? Take, for instance, we hear for HIV, people can live possibly years and they are not aware, or months or thereabouts, and they never knew that they had the disease. Is it the same for hepatitis? Can you go for a while thinking all is well and then suddenly?
Exactly. Exactly. Now, let me just break it down for you so that you get a better understanding. Hepatitis B is 100 times more infectious than HIV. It is highly contagious. Hepatitis C, it is 10 times more infectious than HIV. So B is highly infectious compared to C.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
But both of them are more infectious than HIV. So that's what you need to know first, right? Now, majority of people who get exposed to either of the viruses, B or C, don't know. In fact, 75% of them will present with no symptom. No symptom. What they may present with is flu-like symptoms. Flu-like symptoms like maybe in a sore throat, a headache, a muscle pain, myalgia, they may flu, you know. And when they present to the hospital, they would, when they present in the hospital, you would think that they have malaria. Most people will want to go and do, oh, I have malaria, I have typhoid, I have this, I have that. They will fail to screen for hepatitis, not knowing that they've been exposed. For hepatitis B, you know, it takes about 90 to 150 days for you to start exhibiting symptoms, right? For you to start exhibiting symptoms. So yes, people talk about how it is, you know, contracted. You know, there's so many ways that one can actually contract this virus. And I think I've mentioned a few. In Nigeria today, our studies that was done, I think it was in 2018 that the study was done, the NICE study, 2018, it showed that 8.6% of our population, 8.2 or 8.6, 8.2%, in another value that get that give us 8.6. But 8.2% of our population are infected with chronic hepatitis B. And 1.1% of our population is infected with chronic hepatitis C. If you check this against our general population, you will see that we have about 20 million Nigerians living with either chronic hepatitis B or C in the country. And what you also need to know is that every year, annually, over 1,000 deaths from liver cancer. And if you ask in the hospital, wow, what caused the liver cancer? Most times, in majority of cases, it is viral hepatitis B, especially, or C, before alcohol comes in. So it's a menace in our healthcare, in public health. And it is something that I'm glad. I won't say there are no much light now. We are trying our best, but it's not enough. It's not like HIV. Hepatitis B is maybe of recent started getting funding, you know. But before now, there were little or no funding for hepatitis compared to HIV. So little awareness was made. People are not aware. If there are some places in our country today that if you go, if you screen 10 people, 4 people might be positive. There are some states that have high prevalence of hepatitis B, chronic hepatitis B, and chronic hepatitis C. If you look at some support staff that you get from some particular part of the country, let me say Jos, Kaduna, where you have high prevalence, Benue, Nasarawa, there's so many. You know, Middle Belt, up north, Port Harcourt. There are some places where you have some ridiculous numbers of people who are infected with the chronic hepatitis B or C. If you go to those states, you'll be wondering what happened. How did this happen? You screen 10 people, 4 people are positive. You screen, you know, it became a public health concern, even in Nasarawa State, where the governor had to intervene. In Taraba, the governor had to intervene. It's a big problem in our country. And I don't think we are screening enough. I don't think we are doing enough yet.
I think we'll hold that thought for a moment. We'll delve into that aspect, public health aspect, vaccinations, and everything that people can do to tackle this issue. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, let's face it, our world today experiences numerous challenges. And guess what? Our community isn't off the hook either. Most of the world issues are either not talked about enough or never talked about at all. But here on Timeline, we've got you covered. We dive deep into issues that affect us every day, leaving behind footprints of wisdom, knowledge, and solutions. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps you on the track for success. So buckle up, because in this new season of Timeline, we're taking another trip through the past, the present, and navigate into a more promising future. Again, we're talking solutions, people. And let's make one thing clear. This is not your average blah, blah, blah convo. This is real talk with a side of inspiration and a sprinkle of wow. I never thought about it like that. I'm your host on this impactful ride. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff, laugh a little, and find ourselves on the path to positive change. So what are you waiting for? Season 2 of Timeline will be loaded. Let's get started. Hop in, and let's drive straight into the heart of issues shaping our world. Let's go. Oh, one more thing. Hit that subscribe button and let's take this ride together.
Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hued Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hued Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hued Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change. All right, welcome back. We're still here with Dr. David. We're speaking on hepatitis. So there's a question I like to ask on very much every episode of Untangle, because that's one of the main purposes of the program. What would you say in your experience are some of the biggest misconceptions?
Yes, a lot of people think hepatitis is a life sentence. It's not.
Hmm.
Um, because of the, I think because of the way people have heard about the virus, they make a lot of, misconception about, the virus and say, oh, this person is positive. Oh, if the person comes to this room and sits on this chair, I can't sit on this chair anymore if I will get it. I can get infected by just hugging somebody. I can get infected by just shaking somebody. I can get infected by just touching somebody. No, it's not true. It's not true.
Hmm.
They are, in short, I've seen people lose their jobs because of stigmatization. I've seen some HR drop some, very good candidates because the person is, positive to either hepatitis B or hepatitis C, just because they are scared, they are misinformed on how the virus is spread, and I've seen people who come up with all sort of concussions, saying that this can cure hepatitis, da. But with what I've told you, you know that you can actually eliminate hepatitis by yourself within the first 6 months. Imagine I'm claiming I've cured you with one miracle leaf. When I know that your body is supposed to clear it, you have a 95% chance to clear it within the first 6 months. You happen to meet me within the first 6 months, and I gave you that leave, and I will claim that is it. Of course, you can defend it with, oh, the person's test was positive, now it's negative. But was that what happened? Was it the leave, or was your immunity?
Indeed. And I also, there's the talks of that there is a version of this where people just have it and never show symptoms. And can they also transmit it?
Good. Yes. Now, this is it. Remember I told you that within the first 6 months, the infection is called the acute hepatitis B infection or C infection. And after the 6 months, it's called chronic. People who are chronically infected individuals can live up to 4 decades, that's 40 years, without exhibiting any symptom. 40 years. The hepatitis B virus, we know it leads to cancer. But once you are in that chronic phase, you are either active or inactive. Active meaning the virus is actively replicating, multiplying, and can endanger your liver, right? But if it is inactive, which most doctors who manage hepatitis B patients want to do, they want to move you from the active phase to the inactive phase. If it's inactive, you are good to go. I'm not saying you can't infect another, but the chances of you infecting another compared to someone who is active is low. That's why you will see in some cases where a couple is positive and the other one of the couple is positive and the other one is negative, what we call serodiscordancy, serodiscordant couple. If it happens in HIV as well, it is possible that the other partner who is negative was lucky enough to clear it within the first 6 months. It is possible that the partner who was positive was actually inactive, right? So the chances of him infecting the other partner was low, right? Yeah. It is also possible that so many things can happen. That's my point. So it is the same thing applies for hepatitis C.
Fair enough. So let's talk about vaccinations and prevention. The reason I really pointed out when you mentioned alcohol and drug use is that these are things you can easily tell people. Then also when you mentioned hepatitis A and E, or was it just A? About
A and E?
Yeah, about fecal
oral
routes. And I think if you could break down that language, because if I understand it, washing your hands is something that can help in
hygiene.
that way. So let's delve into prevention aspects.
Okay, so let's start with hepatitis A and E. Basically, it's your hygiene. It's, people who come down with A and E are people in those rural areas, dirty areas. It has to do with hygiene, basically, because it has to do with contamination of food, water. You could see in some rural communities where somebody is defecating at the end of this stream and the other person is fetching the water to wash, to cook at the other end. You can see people who are defecating in the bush, the leaves, the farms, your plants, and those leaves are plucked for veggies and they are not properly washed. So it all boils down to hygiene, right? So that is it. But the beauty of it is hepatitis A has a vaccine, right? So hepatitis A can even be prevented. There's a vaccine for hepatitis A.
Right.
Hepatitis B, the vaccine came out, I think around 1992, but it was not in Nigeria until 2005. So children who were born or people who were born before 2005 did not get an opportunity to have this hepatitis immunization because it was only introduced into Nigeria in 2005 and added to the EPI, our children's immunization schedule, that you give them at birth, you give them at 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14 weeks, like that, and when they grow up. That's for B. I'm talking about B. But what we see is that hepatitis C does not have a vaccine. B has a vaccine. B is not cured. It is treated, managed, yes, but there is no cure, clinical cure. I'm not saying you cannot be cured at all. I'm a very spiritual person as well. You can be cured. And you can be managed. But for C, there's no vaccine. So you can prevent it with a vaccine. It's not a vaccine preventable disease, but you can cure it with some medications. There are some lovely, life-saving, direct-acting antivirals that can be given for this management for chronic hepatitis C.
All right, it's interesting. One has a vaccine but can't be cured. The other can be cured but has no vaccine. But I'm moving on. Let's talk about the dietary and lifestyle changes you could possibly tell people to change or adopt. And then the other aspect is when it comes to someone has just whether gotten the diagnosis or something, they know now that they have it. What do they do? But before these questions, a very quick one. I don't think we've really talked about fatality yet. What are your chances of, I know you've talked about chances of it being cured and all of that, but assuming you do end up with it, the chronic one or the ones where all the symptoms persist, are there chances of survival?
The problem we have in Nigeria is late presentation. And we're a very religious country where someone has it, hey, it's not my portion in Jesus' name. You have it, you've seen it.
Yeah.
Can you start going to manage it instead of, dwelling on this? You see some of them would not even come to the hospital immediately. They will wait, first of all, explore all the native concoctions that passes their way before they now start presenting to the hospital. By that time, either the virus has advanced or the disease condition has advanced, or you notice that the person has reached a stage where doctors can't really do much. That's why early detection is key. By early detection, like you said, like your question, when someone is diagnosed, the first thing the doctor wants to see is, are you within the first 6 months? If you're within the first 6 months, the doctor wants to know if your body will be able to manage it. The doctor will just support you with some medication that will help with your symptoms, right? And ask you to come back. Then, if that fails, that means you've entered the chronic phase. The next thing the doctor wants to see is, are you active or inactive? The doctor, if you're active, we have criteria to start medication. You know, there are lovely medications that are available for management of hepatitis B. You know, it has been proven, you know, over the years, researches have been done. It is wonderful. It actually stops the replication of the virus. But because the virus is in our DNA, right, we cannot go to the DNA and destroy the DNA, right? So it's still like HIV, where there's no cure, but it can be managed, right? So, but what the management is all about we trying to prevent the replication of the virus so it doesn't cause any further damage. So that's why they can have it, but just to improve their life, you know, and improve and prevent complications from this.
Well, that's fair enough. I think we've fully equipped our viewers out there with what they need to know. And I think at this point in time, the awareness is already mostly done. And I believe anyone can start off and then help themselves in any way they can. Thanks so much for helping out today, Dr. David.
God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's how we round off the program for today. I do hope you were taking notes. I believe I was as well here. And I've learned a lot. And I believe this will help us protect ourselves and do better in the fight against hepatitis. See you next time. This remains Untangle. I am Amadine Obewe. Bye for now.